Hey, hey! Holy cow! This ball's got a chance. It could be. It is the Shawn Mackey Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, season 3, episode number 4 of the Shawn Mackey Show. As you can see right here, I have my very first guest of this brand new season. We talked about him coming on and joining the program as kind of like the St. Louis Cardinals correspondent, and see where we go with what it is that we're going to do. I want to take a moment right now to introduce you to my guy, Robert Soup Campbell.
Hello, Matthew.
All right, there he is. So, Robert, you and I work together. We're almost like those brothers from another mother. You know, I'm going to do a DNA 3 test. If I start to see some Campbells on the list, we might have to sit down and talk about it because we're like two peas in the pod, especially when it comes to sports. So hit my audience with your life story in a nutshell, I guess, for lack of a better terms. I mean, we don't have all day, but give us your bona fides, your credentials. Tell us what you did career-wise on the diamond.
All right, I'm an Iowa boy, grew up in Iowa, went to high school in Missouri and college in Missouri, was a Division II baseball player, a left-handed hitter, left-handed thrower, primarily an outfielder, center field, right field most of my career. I was, in my day, pretty good. Pretty good. I played Division II college. I actually did go for a tryout with the Reds. I made it to the third day before I got cut. I think mostly related to a previous knee injury. But I like to say that I was a professional baseball player for 48 hours.
Hey, you know what? That's more than I got going for me. You know, I got the other side of it with football. No tryouts professionally, just the semi-professional football for like a 10-year career, but you obviously got to live. Now, where'd you play college ball?
It was Northeast Missouri State University. Most people know it now today as Truman State University.
Truman State University.
In the late 90s, they changed the name to Truman State.
Now, how does an Iowa kid end up in Missouri? I mean, were you guys close or something? Like,
it's only about an hour and 15-minute drive from home,
okay.
But it's a really good school that actually it kind of opens the doors for Iowa residents, Missouri residents, Illinois residents that all have that in-state tuition.
Oh, okay, so they'll give you in-state tuition if you're from Iowa or Illinois, huh?
Yeah, it's if you read, like I was an above average student, probably a B student, like at 27 on my ACT. So if you were, if you got accepted, then you that was the hardest part, like I
just
said,
getting in the door.
Yeah, close to home, nice school, I could afford it, and they offered me a baseball scholarship. So
awesome.
It's kind
of
I
mean, and that's the thing. Back, at that point, you take what you can get.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was a good student up until a certain point in my life where I kind of felt like I just freaking slacked off and maintained that C average just so I could stay eligible for sports.
Well, I will tell you that I went to, we've had that conversation. I went, from K through 8 to a private Catholic school, and then I transferred to a state public school to play football because my, Catholic school didn't have a football program. And I think I was so far ahead with the private education that I just coasted through high school. When I got to college, I was like,
And
whoa, I was not prepared.
yeah, and that's exactly why I say that we're like brothers from other mothers, because I went through K through 8, I went through private school, private Lutheran school, and I was always an A B student. I think A student all the way probably to like 8th grade, and then we had to take music, and I struggled with music. I struggled so badly with music that it was the only class I had a C in, and my parents promised me a BMX bike if I got my grades, including music, all back up to A's. And I remember getting a B plus in music, and that wasn't enough. So the old man took me and the bike back to Kmart and returned the fucking thing. And so I went, then my freshman year, I went to an all boys Catholic high school. And that's where algebra kicked my ass to the point where that and English, to the point where those are the only two classes I failed in my life. And ironically went on later in life to become an English teacher. But it was one of those things where I felt like the private school education put me so far ahead that when I got to a Chicago public high school, I didn't really have to do as much. And probably by end of freshman year, having that issues at the school, I was like, I'm not going to go to college. Dad was always like, hey, dumbass, hey, boy, hey, stupid, so it kind of puts that in your brain a little. And so I just kind of slacked off just to maintain that C average. And I feel had I applied myself more at the public school and maybe gotten my grades up to that B plus, I may have gotten recruited by more than just a D3 school. And scholarships are given out at the D2 level, but at the D3 level, most of these schools are very high dollar private schools. So when I went on the D3 recruiting circuit and I learned what the tuition was, and I knew my parents had already said, you can go to college, but you have to pay for it in its entirety because we're not doing it.
Well, I kind of feel like the difference for me was when I went to the public schools, you got out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And I didn't put much into it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did
you
enough
didn't have
just
a
to play
choice.
football and baseball,
Yeah. The private school, I didn't have a choice. Either you cut it or you didn't cut it.
Oh, yeah.
It was
And
there.
you were in a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school for a year. Them nuns and them priests, I'll tell you what. I learned how to swear properly from a brother from St. Patrick's High School. He had probably the worst potty mouth I'd ever,
Well,
dealt with as far as a man of the cloth, so to speak.
When I went to public school, man, I just coasted. I think my senior year, I don't even remember taking a book home.
Oh, I believe it.
It was just
Yep.
and then
Yep.
I get to college and I don't have the study skills that I should have. And
Yeah.
that first
I mean, I
semester,
ended up going to school down in Carbondale. A bunch of us got accepted on probation with our low scores and our low grades, and the mandates that they put forth, I just didn't follow through. And then my dad died, and I ended up going to school for a couple of years with no work ethic toward college whatsoever. So I ended up going back when I was 30, and when I had to pay for it again fully, and I was a little more seasoned in life, I did really well. I got accepted to college on at 30 years old on a 1.79 GPA. But I had been out 10 years, so they were like, that's the criteria. That's why we accepted you, because you've been out so long. So we feel you've probably grown a little bit. And I did,
oh
because I
yeah,
ended up graduating, I graduated from Elmhurst University with a 3.4 or 5. Had I had a higher grade point average going in, I probably would have graduated, like magna cum laude or whatever they call it.
well, and your
But
mindset at 30 versus 20 is
very different, very
yes,
different.
absolutely.
Absolutely. So who you rooting for, Robert? Who's
In the
in the Major League Baseball?
I'm a Cardinal boy. Yeah.
All right. See,
Well,
that's why I love to have you on, because I'm a Cubs man all the way. So Robert's going to be joining us.
my dad is from Missouri, and I, probably in the womb, I was hearing stories about Stan Musial, and he was my father's hero. So
He talked to your mom's belly with the stats. He probably read the stats off. And Musial went 3 for 4 today.
To some degree. That
like I was with my babies, I was telling them I love you so much, and then I knew they were going to be girls, even though we didn't check. But your daddy is proud, and Musial was 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs today. And I could just absolutely see that. How big of an influence was your dad on your sports athletic career?
200%. Yeah.
200%. Did he
And
coach
we
you?
touched on it a little bit. My dad actually played some minor league ball. He
Okay.
was a pitcher, and he's, we have quite a few differences. I was not a pitcher. He was right-handed, and I'm left-handed. But I learned the game, and we talked about philosophy and strategy, and I learned all that from my dad. You know,
And
and
what is okay, and I'm glad you said the philosophy, because
yeah,
I know we've spoke about this, and I think our philosophies are similar. So, what's your biggest philosophy on the game of baseball? Like, what would be the mantra if someone came to you today and said, Robert Campbell, we need you to coach this traveling ball club of 15 and 16-year-olds. What's the first thing philosophy wise you're going to look to be doing?
without a shadow of a doubt, fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Do you feel like fundamentals go away, or professional ball players
I
forget
can't put
fundamentals by the time they make it to the big leagues?
I can't put my finger on why. I know they're rushed to the big leagues because there's just too many teams and not enough talent. But the things that I learned, basics such as to hit the cutoff man, things that are should just be automatic in your mind, and that they just don't do. They run into bases. I mean, you see a game where you don't see just a real brain fart on the
Oh,
base pass
yeah,
that
and I'll
was
tell you
just
what, I've been very critical of my Cubs over the last 3 or 4 years, because it seems like they make so many blunders on the base pass. They're not looking for the coach. They're not finding where the ball is. I don't know. It seems to me when some of these, and you could be absolutely right. There's so many teams in baseball. Prospects don't get the time to develop anymore. It's like when teams
well,
have a
there's truth
can't
to
miss
that.
prospect, they just rush them up there very quickly. And it's changed in the last, like, so you look at Chris Bryant. Now the Cubs kind of screwed him over. They brought him up to the major leagues, then they sent him back down. They kind of screwed with his time, which would affect
Stole some
contract
money
wise.
from
But
him.
it
Yeah.
seemed like with Chris Bryant, they took a little bit longer of an approach because they wanted him to succeed, I think. But then you look at 10 years later, and last season, Matt Shaw was supposed to be our third baseman of the future. So they stuck with him all season long. He started hitting later in the year, ended up with a 226 average. And then the Cubs go out and sign Alex Bregman, which you and I both have talked about. It's like, well, yeah, you have to put him at third because the money you gave him, and what. But now Matt Shaw's what, your future at right field, or is he your future as a super utility player? And the fact that Craig Counsell has started him all 3 games of this early season in right field after having only played it for about a month in spring training is mind-boggling enough to me. And that tells me, I think, that they're not really focusing on the fundamentals, the everyday skills that got you to the highest level possible. You know?
Well, I told you, my father is your great leading question of my influence. You know, being a Cardinal fan, and embracing Whitey Ball. My dad even had, prior to us knowing who Whitey Herzog was, had a very similar philosophy. Now he didn't have the complete expertise of the rule book that Whitey had. I don't even know if I knew what a double substitution was before Whitey came along.
Yeah,
But
right. And that
uh,
one still, it's like, okay, all right, here we go.
Dad, of course he was a pitcher. You know, he felt pitching and defense, you know, are your standard. You pitch well and you don't make mistakes, and then you scratch out runs. And then that's
Kind of that
Whitey Ball
small
really
ball.
takes that, absolutely, Whitey Ball, small ball, whatever you want to call it, takes it to the next level. But and Whitey has had the expression that speed and defense never go into slumps. Well, there's a little bit of truth to that. That your offense, Dad put it different ways that hitting is contagious. Well, so is slumping.
Absolutely.
So if you put the best pitching and defense you have out there, and you limit your opponent's chances of scoring as best you can, and maybe you scratch out a run or two, and you've got a chance. I have a hard time sometimes with watching games today where they're just trading blows, and whoever gets the last 3-run homer wins the ball game.
Launch angles, baby. I think, to me personally, I think one of the biggest downfalls of hitting in baseball over the years has been the advanced metrics, and then whoever it was is responsible for creating this launch angle phase, where I just think everybody in your lineup, bottom to top, is just trying to perfect that launch angle because everybody wants to hit the fucking long ball.
Yep. Well, you're exactly right. We've traded the philosophy of hitting 280 with 20 home runs to hitting 240 with 40 home runs. That's
unbelievable how.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, unbelievable to me how far the National League, Major League Baseball batting average has dropped in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, if you were to Google it, I think it was something up there around, like you said, 275, 280. Get the RBIs, make contact, win ball, small league. Get them on, get them over, get them in. Now everybody's trying to swing for the fences, so Major League's average has dropped all the way down under 250. Pretty soon, the Major League average might be the Mendoza line. And that would be absolutely bad. And for those of you out there, if you're a younger audience and you don't know what the Mendoza line is I don't even know the kid's first name, but I think he was a shortstop out of Pittsburgh. Good defensively, but the kid never hit a lick more than 200. So for years, you would hear announcers and say, oh, he's hovering right around that Mendoza line, knowing that, okay, this guy can't hit for shit. And back in the day, those are guys you'd see not make it in Major League Baseball very long. And now every season, guys are sticking around 8, 9, 10 years and making it a career of hitting 230 because what? Maybe they're decent defensively or they can run, like you said, but nobody takes pride in making contact anymore.
Well, I didn't have the skill set that they want for today's game. I had good speed. I made good contact. I had very little power, and I was an excellent defensive player. So, I think if I think I was in the minors right now, they try to change me. They
very well could be
hit for more power, and
yeah, because we're seeing little guys trying to hit for power. Even Nico Horner, they said this year he's taken a different approach to try to pull in more power, and I'm thinking, why? Why, Nico? You almost won the batting title.
Yeah.
By being a good contact guy, he's your best hitter. And then Craig Counsell has him batting 5th or 6th instead of 2nd, which, we'll get into later about lineup gaffes that our managers make. But that's going to bring me to something. We've talked about this. And I think, Robert, excuse me. And did you watch the Cardinals game yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't. I was out and about. My wife and daughter dragged me out to that treasure hunt store in Springfield where every day the price is cheaper for all these Amazon returns. And I was keeping track of it. First of all, congratulations on, well, I don't want to say on your second in a row comeback victory because your Cardinals freaking gave it up early.
Yes.
Or, in game 1, they had a lead. 1-0, then it was tied 1-1, then they were losing 7-1, and then they came back to win 9-7. That was awesome. Something I didn't witness from my Cubs in game 1 when they got absolutely obliterated by the Nationals. But then yesterday's game, what was the deal on that one? They were winning 5-0 going into the 9th inning, or 5-1,
4-0,
something like that.
Yeah.
And they gave up all of their runs to the Rays in the 9th inning. So you had to go to extra innings. But from what I could see through the ESPN app, I think I'd seen 2 of your philosophies play out.
Yes,
and you
sir.
can tell me if I'm wrong on this. So the first one is when the Rays took the 5-4 lead in the 10th, they immediately walked the first batter. Now, did they do that intentionally, or was it the unintentional intentional walk to force that double play?
I think it was intentional. Yes.
Intentional.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
put that runner on first, and we've talked about this. You're like, if you're the visiting team, why aren't you walking guys to get that double play in order? So that's what Tampa Bay wanted to do, right?
Yep.
Well, good old Marmol, he comes out, and what does he do with the first batter after the walk? He has him lay down that bunt, and takes the bat out of the kid's hand, lays down the bunt, sacrifice second and third. Now, Weatherholt, your rookie,
Yep.
whose first major league hit was a home run,
Yep.
comes up to the plate and promptly does what?
Hits a line drive into right field. Both runs score.
And the Cardinals win the game. And I was sitting there in that store, and I'm thinking, how fitting is it that I'm going to have Robert on the show tomorrow? And we've talked about those two philosophies all the time. I'm a big believer, especially in those extra innings, starting with that universal rule with the runner on second. If the opposing team doesn't walk my first guy to put me on, and it doesn't matter if they walk him, if they don't walk him, I'm a big fan of bunting that guy over and getting him in the scoring position, because you got a better chance. You get that runner from second to third, one out, you got a good chance. Any decent team other than the Cubs could get you that sacrifice fly, you know,
Well,
and then get that game tied. But they went and they bunted him over, got two runners in scoring position, and your rookie, and I'm going to tell you this right now, if this kid keeps playing like he's playing, on the next show we do, and we talk about the awards, Major League, I'm going to see if this kid's going to be in the hunt for Rookie of the Year this year, because right now, to me, in the two games I've witnessed or at least kept track of, I think he's doing some good things.
Yeah. Well, in the, I hate to give Marmol more credit than I have to, but it kind of fell into place having the ninth place hitter up, who is an excellent bunter and has excellent speed. So
yeah,
to me, it was a no-brainer. He did the right thing. I give him credit for that.
It would have been really bad in that situation if he went the total opposite way with what he had and they lose that game.
Yeah.
But
so, if I've got my 3, 4, 5 guys coming up and I've already got the runner on second, I probably let them try it, because they'll drive unless it's a guy that can't run, and then I'll pinch run for him. The odds are one of those 3 guys will drive him in. I don't want to give up an out of my middle of my lineup, to move him over.
Yeah. Well, you're big power hitting guys.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are supposed to get
starting
that
with
runner
your ninth place hitter.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Perfect situation to bunt there and move them over. So that was good to see. But today we've got, and this is where we're going to see if yours or my predictions early in this season. I told you when the Cubs were losing the other day and we were at work, and I said, we're going to end up today and the Cubs be in third place and the Brewers and the Cardinals will be in first place. And the Cubs, of the 3 losses on opening day, the Cubs had the worst loss run differential. So they were all right into last place. And then they go out and score 10 yesterday. So I think standing wise, it's Brewers, Cardinals, Cubs, 1, 2, 3. But the Cardinals and the Brewers are basically 1-1A because they're both 2-0, right?
Yeah.
So the Cubs are technically in second place at 1-1. So we'll see how today plays out, and we'll see tomorrow morning what the standings look like. And yes, I know it's a long season.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it's a marathon and not a sprint. We talked and this is my thing. Philosophy-wise, as a fan, here's my philosophy. If I'm a fan and I spend money and I put my time into following this team and I buy the merchandise, I mean, you can't see it in my studio because I'm worried about copyright infringement, because you can even get busted on copyright if you've paid for merchandise. But I spend the money. I go to Cubs games. I buy the jerseys. We get the hats, everything. And I've done it my whole life. So I'm critical of my team. I'm not a rose-colored glasses kind of guy. I don't look at the rah, rah, rah. I mean, yes, I'm going to be a fan till the day I die. But there have been times, I'll tell you what, after the 2003 season with the whole Bartman fiasco and the Cubs blew that game and they didn't go to the World Series, I boycotted the Cubs for probably 2 seasons. I was done. I wanted nothing. They gave me such heartache that year that I just couldn't watch them. I couldn't follow them. And I almost did that if they would have kept David Ross as the manager. I liked the Craig Counsell at the early beginning, but I'm starting to realize why the Brewers didn't give Craig Counsell the money he was looking for, because he hasn't won anything. And the decisions I see him make on a daily basis, and I will probably talk about those piss poor decisions. Yes, I know I'm not the manager, but I know enough of the game. You know enough of the game that if we're paying fans, we absolutely have that right to second guess our managers.
Well, whether they want us to or not, our lives, are up and down with how our baseball team does. That's just who we are.
Yes.
It's
And
just
so
who we
it's
are.
such a long season. So it's like extra blood pressure pill today. Oh, I can relax. It's better. Yesterday's game for the Cubs, 10-4 or whatever it was, big onslaught of offensive power. Cade Horton pitched a great game. So I was like, whew, calm down a little bit. But I'm also of that philosophy where people tell me it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm like, what if you lose the freaking division by 1 game?
Yeah.
And what happens if you lose that division by 1 game, but your record's not enough to put you in the playoffs because somebody else in the league had a better record and they're the wild card?
Well, I agree with this. I've heard this cliche. You can't win your division in April, but you can lose it in April.
Oh, yes, you can. I mean, you fall into a big enough hole in April and you can't climb out of it. You could absolutely go back and say, this game, this game, this game, this game.
It's not even April yet, but
Yeah. So it's just one of those deals. So all right. I mean, we got a good start. What do you got?
I was frustrated going into the season with, the Cardinals trading arguably their 4 most talented players, not spending any money on what's going to be on the field now. So, it's a little bittersweet, our success, because, if
day 1 and 2, I tell you,
I felt going in, and I think I even said this specifically to you when I looked at the 14-man pitching roster, excluding the 5 starters, the other 9 guys, I knew 2 of their names. So that was not.
Yeah, and that's hard. Now, why do you think that is? Do you think there's some ulterior motives going on behind the scenes in Cardinal land?
Well, I don't want to get us in trouble here because my philosophy that I think the team's for sale for the right price and they're not going to spend any more money than they have to. And I think a lot of that has to do with the question marks of the new CBA next season.
Yeah, because we very could be. I know the owners are pushing for a salary cap and the players are adamant that they're not ever going to put one in. And I think I mentioned this to you. It's like, I could see this lockout going for an entire season to maybe where the point, if the owners really want that salary cap, they just reset and say, we're instituting a salary cap. So we're going to find players who are fine playing for that. And I don't know. It's just like, could it happen, or will the owners cave and not go with a salary cap? But I do know that I think it's needed. I think it's very difficult for the average fan to go and enjoy games because of how high ticket and concession prices are, because you got to pay how many rosters in Major League Baseball right now have 2 or 3 guys on it that are making 20 or 30 million a year? I know the Cubs got 4 of them now with the extensions of Horner and Pete Crow, and you got Dansby Swanson and now Alex Bregman. And that's 4 guys on your starting lineup that you're looking and committed to like 80 million for 1 season.
Yeah. Well, I'll be quite honest. It's not a level playing field.
No. It's not.
What do you want to call them? The former Oakland A's or the future Las Vegas A's or the Sacramento A's? How can they compete with the Dodgers? How in the
You
hell can they
can't.
compete with the Dodgers?
And that's another payroll. That payroll every year. Oh, it's just crazy to me. It's mind-boggling. So, in future episode, Robert's going to come on and we're going to bring him out. We're going to bring him on next week because we want a nice little treat. I'm going to tease this for next week. We're going to talk a little bit about who we think might win some of the major award. It's a major award. A major award. What is it? It's a major award. It's a leg lamp, going back to the Christmas story. But so some of the, oh, where's my cursor? God dang it. All right. So we're going to give our predictions for who we think will be the National League MVP, the National League Cy Young Award winner. We're going to give you our predictions for the standings. We're not going to go crazy and give you the all MLB team and the second team. We're not going to do silver sluggers. We're not going to do gold gloves. That's just too many guys to predict and see. So we're going to do the single
And
awards.
one thing we're going to do,
we're going to make sure that we don't predict anybody who won the awards last year. So just for a refresher, American League MVP Aaron Judge, National League MVP Shohei Ohtani, Cy Young Award American League Tyreek Skubal, National League Paul Skeens. We're not going to choose any of those guys, except I'm going to throw you a loop. I'm going to choose one of those guys, but it's going to be for a different award.
I think I know where he's going, so stay tuned.
All right, so I'm going to choose one of those guys, but it's going to be for a different award from what he won last year. Quite frankly, I'll give you another clue. It's probably because it's the one award he hasn't won yet. And I think, and I know he's gunning for it. So we're going to leave it at that. Rookie of the year last year was Nick Kurtz from the A's and Braves catcher Drake Baldwin. In the National League Manager of the Year awards in the American League, Stephen Vogt. And in the National League, the Brewers, the dreaded Brewers, Pat Murphy. All right. Here's some of these awards that I didn't even know existed. And it was the Aaron Awards, the Hank Aaron. Yeah. He's got awards. Did you know this?
It's best offensive player.
Turned out it's really, they're just like, who is that? Well, it's the MVP. Yeah. So it was Judge and Ohtani. Then there's the Clemente Awards. Yeah. That was Mookie Betts. And I think we're just going to leave it there for the single player awards. We're not going to get into Gold Glove winners, Silver Slugger winners, any of that. We're going to touch on it a little bit. We might say one guy, make a case. Each of us may make a case for one guy who could win a Silver Slugger or a Gold Glove, but not the entire roster's worth of guys. So we're going to get that for you. We're going to make our predictions for the standings in the National League, see who's going to come out top, who's going to be the wild card round guys. And then Robert's going to be on with us every time, either before or after, maybe both, before the Cardinals-Cubs series and then after the Cardinals-Cubs series. I personally think it's better after, because then we'll each have some fuel for the fire between our teams and how we're doing. Just a little fun back and forth between us here, there. And everywhere. So we might delve into the ALCS and the NLCS MVPs, but that's going to go kind of with our predictions of who we might end up seeing in the World Series. Then we'd have to choose a guy off of that team, because if we predict that the Cubs would win the World Series, you would say that there's going to be a Cubs player as the MVP of the NLCS and or the World Series. So that's where we're going to go with that today. So that's about all the time we have. One thing I did want to ask you, Robert, when you were a kid, did you do the paper where you folded the paper and then you folded it into triangles and you made the football and you kicked the football? Did you have that game?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this, brother. Found that yesterday at the treasure hunt store. This is a deal. I don't know if you've ever heard of this store. It's all the Amazon returns, and they restock on Thursday. So Friday, everything's $12. You can't open packages. You can scan them with the Amazon app. I saw this in a 2-pack. We bought the 2-pack. One is going to be a gift for my nephews, like 12 or 13. But I figure I'm 57 and I bought this game for myself to play. I'm going to use the goalpost as part of my studio show here. It's going to go next to all the stuff that's right down there. But, I'm going to maybe see if I can rig up my camera with the goalposts. So every now and again, I'll take some shots and some kicks. There's 2 goalposts. Hell, Robert, if I could figure out how to do it on camera, I could give you one of the goalposts. We could have a damn match and a game kicking at least. We did the table. Did you ever do the table where you push it there and then you got to get the corner of the football to hang off the edge for a touchdown and then you'd kick the field goal? But I did want to share this with the audience. I'm a 57-year-old child who had to go out and buy my very own professionally made triangle football kit. So there's that. I just wanted to share that with you. I thought maybe you'd get a kick out of that.
Every real sports fan is still a kid at heart.
Absolutely. You know what? Because it's a kid's game. You start out playing it as a kid and you got that possible potential to get to the big leagues. And I got a whole lot of philosophy on certain things, why it didn't work out for me the way I thought it would. But, we can get into that later. But we're going to end the episode. I like to keep my episodes right around 30 minutes, but now my, my hub just fell off the back of the desk and it pulled my computer forward. So I've got a mess here where things might start coming unhooked. So I want to thank Robert Soup Campbell for coming on today's show. He's going to be a regular contributor. Hopefully you'll post these when I post up some videos and you watch the show, give us a little feedback. Tell us, what you think. Does Robert turn out to be do we change the direction of the show and we make it a 2-man show? Or do we just keep bringing on, and I bring on different guests? I don't know a lot of people to keep bringing on guests, but I am very happy and honored to have Robert here. The man's baseball knowledge is by far more than mine. And I feel like I'm a pretty knowledgeable person when it comes to the sport of baseball. But for me, I'm probably, if I had to say, I'm a football guy first and then a baseball guy. But for Robert, I'd have to say it's the opposite. He's a baseball guy first and then he's a football guy. But I would like to get him on during the football season when we're talking about football, because his knowledge there is also pretty extensive. So thank you, Robert, for coming on the show. Everybody, I'm going to give you a nice little cheer. I know you can't hear it on your end, but in the final video, you'll hear the little cheering for you, Robert. I want to say thank you to you. It was a pleasure having you on, and we will chat soon, and we'll get you on next week when we make our predictions for the tops in Major League Baseball for the 2026 season. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you when we see you. Peace. Hey, if I made you laugh, made you think, or even made you smile, please tell all your friends. If I didn't, just keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for listening to The Shawn Mackey Show.